They say back to basics, keep it fair. Just a warm, dry home away where rent jumps yearly, no apology. Ay, market adjustment theology. They say be grateful, smile, behave. While landlords get another tax break, we're going back to basics. That's the line they always say. Can't afford the rent in Auckland, can't afford it anywhere. Power bill spikes in winter, insurance doubles overnight, and they call it personal responsibility when the lights won't stay on at night. Insurance says flood zone, sorry mate. Premiums up, blame climate fade. Petrol's to something, pushing 3. Pay to get to work, don't you see? They say competition keeps prices low. Funny, only one power company where I go. We're going back to basics, but the basics cost your soul. Can't afford the petrol, can't afford the power, can't afford to fill the trolley full. They say just shop around, say budget smart. When countdown pack and save, new word on the card. This isn't living beyond our means, it's living inside of reach.
And welcome to tonight's Order Paper podcast. Laura is dealing with more Green Party stuff, so we've joined here by Chloe, who probably knows a hell of a lot more about the Greyhound industry than probably our whole audience does in combined.
Just a little bit.
So, one of the things we do when we have guests on the show is we ask what part of the country or what electorate you're based in. Like, I'm based in the Rongotai electorate. My local MP is Julian Genter, and if I was on the Māori roll, I'd be based in Te Tai Tonga, and my local MP would be Te Kuta Ferris. Who's yours?
Oh, honestly, I don't actually know. I haven't looked into it. I moved about less than a year ago. So I used to be located in Auckland, and then I moved down to, I'm currently in Christchurch. So I haven't honestly looked into it because I moved before voting in Parliament. And quite honestly, before this whole thing happened with the Greyhound racing, I didn't pay too much attention to Parliament where I definitely should be.
And then somehow you end up on a show that sits there and tells you exactly what submissions you can sit there and submit on, not just about greyhounds, but, I mean, put it this way. If you want to put a submission about the local body election, that closes at the end of the month. If you want to sit there and write a submission on the arms bill, that closes in about 10 days' time. There's a lot that you find out.
Yes, I'm coming to see that,
Yeah. So I see you got a greyhound there. What's the name of your greyhound?
This is Kevin. Very good race dog. I've got 4 inside my house. I've got 1 including a foster. So I've got 3 of my own and then a foster dog. This here is Kevin. His race name was No Keeper. He is the best dog I've got in the house race-wise. So he earned over $300,000 in stakes. And then my other 2, one of them only had 1 win, so she wasn't a very good race dog. But decided that she no longer wanted to race. So she used to run out of the boxes, turn around and come back to whoever was handling her that day. So sides of the scales.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's something you don't tend to think about.
No, it's not.
No, I mean, I'll be honest. I've not really watched greyhound racing. It's something I've not had. I love seeing the dogs at the A&P shows. Like
Oh,
that's my interactions of greyhounds. Is like it's the post racing life.
yeah, I think it's not something people realise is either still going on or they haven't really looked into it. And a lot of I foster for a rehoming organisation called Greyhounds. We'll go to like A&P shows or events and stuff, and a lot of people are like, oh, and they didn't even realise they were adoptable, pretty much.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just hope we have a successor plan for them because, like, as soon as I was like hearing the bill, I'm like going like, oh, oh God, are we about to lose a dog breed? Because it's like, they're not just about racing; they can do a hell of a lot of other things.
Yeah. It's very uncertain at the moment. Like even people within rehoming that organise all of that have no information as to what's happening. So it's just, to put it plain and simple, we just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so uncertain, and I mean, it does feel with this bill, it's like apart from bits that are in there about like with rehoming them afterwards, there's not much certainty what could be happening. Like with greyhounds, if you breed a greyhound, that dog skip the racing process and just go straight into private ownership?
Technically, it could. However, within the rules, so if you had a greyhound, say it was 8 weeks or something, it had whatever, maybe was born with one eye or something, like a race dog, then yes, it could be rehomed at a young age. However, they wouldn't be able to rehome that dog without it being D6 due to the greyhound. So no dog can be rehomed D6. Every dog has to have full dental workups, fully vaccinated, those sort of things. So there are hoops they'd have to jump through. But yeah, puppies can be rehomed. It's not common because greyhounds are normally broken in between the 12 to 16 month age range. That's kind of where their bones are fully developed. So you'd be silly to try break them in any earlier. That
makes a bit of sense. Yeah, no, there's always been something that's been a bit interesting is like, how many bypass the racing stage. Because, I mean, that does happen and you get dogs in all sorts of situations that, they're bred for a certain thing, but sometimes they don't end up doing what they were originally designed to do.
Yeah. Well, in experience, we had a brood bitch who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. She was my pet. She lived till about 13 and a half and she passed of a stroke. So 3 years ago she passed away. But she had she had 3 litters, and one of those litters was a litter of, I think it was 14 puppies. It's either 12 or 14, I can't quite remember. I was quite young when she had them. But out of those 12 or 14 puppies, I think it was only 3 of them ended up making race dogs. Quite a few of them were rehomed quite early. Some might have had 1 or 2 trials, and then we called it and said they're not going to make race dogs, so they went into a home straight away at about the 14-month mark.
Yeah. One of the things I also want to know is what can they be good at, like picking up things like epilepsy, possibly drug control, pest control?
Oh, do you, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
What you mean. Sight dogs. So my older girl that I have in the house, I do scent work with her. So we're looking at competing this year. She's not the best because they are sight hounds, so they are bred for the purpose of, if they were hunting for their sight, not for their nose. Where Irish setters or golden retrievers or whatever, they'd be more inclined to use their noses. Sort of obviously sniffer breed, so you've got like your beagles and that sort of thing. So they could technically possibly be used, but they wouldn't be the ideal dog.
Okay, so yeah, basically it would be effectively trying to train something that's potentially against their natural instincts.
Yeah, you'd be more like a lot of people, which I wouldn't recommend to anyone who gets a greyhound, but a lot of people who hunt rabbits down here is quite popular because there's so many in Christchurch. they use whippets and things like that, so that's kind of more where they would be bred and designed if you were to use them outside of racing. But due to the rehoming rules around being D6, we're unsure if we can breed past the.
That's going to be a thing there. Okay, so we're going to head on to some of the some of the speeches that have come from some of the submissions. I think the best one probably is to start off with is it's one of the later ones, but it's a shorter one. But it also has the Greyhound Racing New Zealand chief executive part of it. So we'll go through submissions. Might take break. I think their Greyhound Racing New Zealand one's about 20 minutes long, so it might take breaks. So I know Glenda Hughes is in there, who's shall we say, we stood against each other for Greater Wellington Regional Council in 2019. And basically take some commentary on their submissions and see what is said.
Yep.
Okay, let's kick it off with the first one on there. And it wants to. Okay.
My thing says Zoom. Is it? I'm going to get that wrong.
Hello, I was expecting to be on at 5:20.
Huh?
Sorry, I was
The joys
expecting to
of
be on
the
at
start
5:20.
of
Is my watch wrong?
a select committee
Never mind.
meeting.
I know.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. I've been a veterinarian for 50 years. Most of that time I've worked for primary industry departments in different states and for the Commonwealth in Australia and in New Zealand for MAF and MPI rather. I've worked on animal welfare standards. I've been part of national committees on animal welfare, particularly in Australia. I've been an expert witness in court cases dealing with animal cruelty. I've been the independent chair of Greyhound Racing New Zealand's Animal Health and Welfare Committee for 3 years. The role of the Animal Health and Welfare Committee of GRNZ is to advance the care and well-being of racing greyhounds in New Zealand. I don't represent GRNZ. I'm an independent consultant, and my role on the committee is as the independent chair. I'm very proud of the achievements of the Animal Health and Welfare Committee in providing advice to GRNZ over that 3-year period and even before the time that I was chair. When I became the chair, I met with the board. I told them that I was not prepared to do the job unless animal welfare was central to all the decisions that the board of GRNZ made, and they gave me a commitment that that would be how it would work. And I have seen no evidence that they've departed from that agreement. Over the 3 years, I've seen GRNZ prioritise animal welfare at all times. There's been 3 reviews into the industry, as you know. The first 2 were commissioned by the industry, and the third one, the Robertson Review in 2021, was commissioned by the government. Each of those highlighted issues with the industry, and in each case, the industry responded to the issues that were identified. The decision to ban the industry seems to have been based on the 2021 review findings, with no recognition of the progress made by industry since the Robertson Review was published. There's been no contact between the Minister and GRNZ over that period. In my written submission, you'll find I list 23 initiatives that have been implemented since 2021 to improve greyhound welfare. For example, race fatalities have been reduced by 85%, and unnecessary euthanasias have been reduced to 0, and that 0 has been for several years. The previous government placed the industry on notice, as we all know. It had to improve greyhound welfare or be closed down. There's no question that the industry did improve greyhound welfare in many ways. Serious injury rates in New Zealand are comparable or lower than Australian greyhound racing, and they're lower than in both of the horse codes, either of the horse codes. Race fatality numbers are roughly half of those for thoroughbred racing. Even since the announcement of the closure in December 2024, greyhound welfare, has been improving. Injury severity is declining, and in the 2 most recent quarters, the moderate to severe injury rates have been the lowest ever recorded. The industry has been prevented from improving further. With the possible closure hanging over its head for 3 or 4 years, it could not invest millions in a new planned safer track at Ashburton, for example, to replace the Addington track in Christchurch. It was not possible for the board to say we're going to invest, I think it was $9 million in creating a new track, which would have been safer when the industry was under threat of closure. Or in new straight tracks. We built a new straight track in Wanganui, opened in 2023, and the injury rates there are about half that of the curved tracks. You've heard a lot about straight tracks already, I know. So I'm against the closure, but assuming the closure will happen, fair compensation must be paid. Over 1,000 people will be deprived of their livelihoods directly, plus there's a lot of other businesses which depend on income from the greyhound racing industry. Often the families that will be affected have been in the business for generations. They're often in rural areas where their specialised skills are not readily translated into new employment. Compensation is not just a moral and ethical imperative, it's required by the government's own legislation, the Regulatory Standards Act, Section 9, Part C. I've heard that the industry shouldn't be compensated because the industry's been on notice for 3 or 4 years. Yes, it has been on notice, but it was under threat of closure if it did not address the issues raised in the reviews. And all the participants in the industry could see progress that had been made in regard to greyhound welfare. So the decision to close down was still a surprise to most of the industry, and it was a surprise to me. I thought the industry had done enough to be able to maintain its existence.
Hannah, I'm just going to say, Alan, before you carry on, that we're just about at time. So if you want, and I know Miles Anderson has a question, so if you want to wrap up now, we can take a question. Otherwise,
I will wrap up. I understood I had 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So fair compensation must be paid if the industry is to close. The legislation should make this clear. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Miles, we've got a question.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Alan, we've had a number of submitters today talk about injury stats, saying that a lot of them are hidden because they happen in training or off the track, so they're not included in the general statistics. Could you enlighten us, please?
Yeah, I think there's some truth in that, but I mean, there's also an enormous amount of misinformation about statistics. We heard a minute ago that what was the figure? Was it 650 dogs were euthanized? That includes dogs that were pets kept by trainers after they'd been retired from the industry, and they might be 14-year-olds who are euthanized as any pet dog might be euthanized at the end of its life. There's statistics and the statistics. Now, I agree that there are injuries that can happen off the track that might not come up in the official statistics.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time. Oh, have you got a quick question? Sorry, Mark's got a question.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your submission. Right early on the piece, there was an organisation that made an allegation about dogs being deliberately removed from public view, being warehoused to avoid scrutiny, etc. There was no evidence provided. Have you got any thoughts on that?
I didn't hear that submission, and I don't really know what it's about.
Yeah, it's a written in the written submission.
Oh, okay.
Greyhound dogs are currently being crated in substandard conditions, deliberately removed and being warehoused to avoid scrutiny. Would you?
Okay. Well, look, every training premises is visited once a year, at least, by the RIB inspectors, and they're tracing every dog and ensuring that it's there. I can't see that that's going to work.
So that's not possible in your...
Well, it would be difficult, and I don't believe it's happening. I can't say categorically.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got some on one of the submissions there. Any comments you want to make before I ask some questions?
I don't think so. Not that come to the top of my head, but if you have some questions, feel free.
Straight track versus round track. What's the distance from a straight track and a round track?
That's a difficult question because it depends. So we have 3 types of tracks. So we've got the straight track, which is obviously straight. We have what's either a horseshoe track or a one-turn track, which is generally a larger circumference or a larger circle, which has not as tight a bend as what we would call a 2-turn track, which means that they call it a 2-turn because if you have a middle distance race, which is basically the 400 to 500 meter mark, a 2-turn track, you'll have to run past 2 turns to make it to the finish line. The 1 turn, you only pass 1. So the 2-turn track just has a tighter bend. Therefore, the 1 turn and the straight tracks have a less likely chance of injury. However, they are all well. So we've got an Addington, we've got a 2-turn track. Because the way that it's maintained with the staff on the track, the surface of it is safe. It's just that the bend is not as safe as the other 2 tracks. So a straight track can only be one distance. It's generally a sprint distance. I believe that the Wanganui one is roughly about 295 meters, 300 meters off the top. Where the other tracks, the circle ones, can be between 295 meters and 700.
Okay, I'll see if we can actually, if there's an image that can show what the track actually, like, kind of. Oh, I absolutely love it. Do you mean you forgot to put the W in? Great thing Google does. Yeah, it just seems, the Google images just seem to sit down there and bring in.
If you go on to Greyhound Racing New Zealand, which is grnz.co.nz, I think it is, and you go under, there's a tab at the top that will say, I think it's tracks and something.
How do you spell it?
So just type Greyhound Racing New Zealand. It should come up with their website.
It brings up a whole heap of other things in there first.
But yeah, the website is GRNZ, like the letters.
grnz.co.nz.
Roughly that, yeah. Or
Yeah, because it also goes, please verify you're human before proceeding.
Yeah, it does that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's not okay. See, I thought something was wrong. Like there was not a.
When people, I think they changed it to do that when something or rather people overseas started doing something on the website or something.
Yeah. So it's so where would be one that had pretty pictures of showing what the tracks would be?
So if you click like the tab that brings down all the different options of tabs, there's one that says it says fields and tracks or tracks and something.
Oh, right there. Oh, fields and ERTs.
No, not that one. There's another one. It says tracks
Field?
and something. Oh, my phone's right there.
It's all right. It's all right. We will sit down there. Yeah, because it's Greyhound Racing breaks up fields and ERTs. Along with home phones, getting involved brings in a bunch of stories. There's the Greyhound Hall of Fame. Again, that's the dogs.
If you click, it might come under that tab.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. I know it's.
No, that's all right. I mean, it's exactly. It's just one of those things. Can we pull off something off the fly? It's not quite going to plan.
No, it's on there somewhere. And anyways, it has the list of different tracks in New Zealand. So you've got your Auckland, you've got Cambridge, Palmerston North, Wanganui, and you've got Addington and Invercargill. And it has pictures of different looks of the tracks. So obviously the Wanganui straight track would be a straight, and then you've got Invercargill, which is a one turn, so it's a bit larger than the
Yeah,
price of
yeah,
one.
no, it's brought up there. I mean, the one that gets me in Auckland, it sounds like it's what do you call it, in the middle of a CBD. Well, it's not CBD, it's Manukau City, but still, yeah, the Auckland one sits down there and like, you know, you just go, hey,
It's
what? But yeah, the rest of them actually sound like proper race tricks.
Yeah, the Manukau ones.
Yeah, it actually is quite interesting. Not sure if there was a no, it was a meeting. It wasn't a race, but there was a meeting there today in the Auckland one.
Oh yeah, there was a race meeting there. Yeah, every Sunday.
Yeah, and there's also and there's one tomorrow in Christchurch at Addington Raceway. Yeah. Oh, we haven't been able to quite see a track of what we would be. Should we get on to Glenda Hughes' submission?
Yep.
Yeah, get to see great friend Glenda.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We now have Glenda Hughes in person for 10 minutes. Welcome, Glenda.
Can I just have a little bit before we start?
Absolutely.
Well, it's great to know that Glenda is hydrated.
Good afternoon. As Chair has just announced, I am Glenda Hughes. I have previously served as an independent chair of the New Zealand Racing Board, chair of the Racing Integrity Board, interim chief executive officer of Greyhounds New Zealand during the Robertson Review, and as a consultant to the SPCA. I currently chair Pet Refuge and am a director of Kids Can and Bernardos. In 2017, during my terms as the Racing Board chair, I initiated the Hanson Review as an independent organisation from the Racing Board. So I guess it's a racing industry initiated it, but not Greyhounds. And basically when that one came, and that was after the 2013 review, which was initiated by Greyhounds, which was the WHK review. I was then asked when I finished my term at the Racing Board, if by the chair of Greyhound Racing, to serve as the interim CEO with a clear mandate to lift greyhound welfare. That mandate shaped every decision I made. And what I do want to say is, A, I'm not a punter, and B, I don't own greyhounds, and I've never been involved in the industry apart from understanding the importance of welfare, as you can tell by my current chair as Pet Refuge. Based on observed outcomes arising from government and regulatory decisions, I have serious concerns about the racing industry, closure of Greyhound Racing Industry Amendment Bill. In its current form, the bill lacks sufficient evidentiary support and fails to ensure due process. Its passage will have significant negative consequences for livelihoods, mental health, and will result in the extinction of a dog breed that has raced in New Zealand since the 1800s. The bill is not a response to evidence, it is a reaction to spin, and it does not achieve its stated purpose. You do not improve welfare by dismantling the regulatory system that enforces it. Removing this framework creates real risk, including the emergence of unregulated or black market racing. This concern was raised with members during the hearings last week. This bill removes greyhound protections and lumps them with the general pet population, a sector already reported to be widely in crisis. This environment does not improve welfare, it shifts risks and obscures accountability. This matters because tens of thousands of companion animals are already being euthanised each year in pounds and shelters, often due to overcrowding and constrained resources. No one knows this more than the SPCA, which no longer publicly shares its euthanasia numbers. Its head of advocacy actively lobbies government ministers to close greyhound racing, while the crisis in the companion animal sector, which struggles to reduce harm and euthanasia rates, is surely the country's more urgent problem. Policy development should not be outsourced to advocacy organisations, however well-intentioned they are. The regulatory impact statement acknowledges that the industry should have been consulted and was not. It explicitly identifies material risks to livelihoods and mental health, yet the bill fails to address them. I say this with respect for the institution of Parliament. This risks becoming an example of lawmaking divorced from consequences. The Thoroughbred racing industry's new flagship welfare initiative is a purpose-built horse crematorium which boasts a double burn chamber. Having personally overseen world-leading greyhound welfare reforms, transparency and lifetime traceability, I find it jarring that these achievements are ignored while a horse crematorium is presented as life after racing. There is also a glaring double standard. Domestic greyhound racing is to be shut down while Australian greyhound racing continues to be imported for gambling purposes. Perversely, profits from overseas greyhound racing will be used to fund the domestic horse racing. I added this in because members have asked why more tracks were not built earlier. Under my leadership, the Wanganui track was closed, the original Wanganui track was closed. We then undertook extensive consultation with both local and international experts across multiple disciplines to ensure any straight track design genuinely reduced injury risk. There was no point in just building something without the evidence and the research. This included curators, soil specialists, veterinarians, engineers, lure drivers, trainers, and Professor David Eager, a leading academic authority at the University of Sydney, on injury prevention and causation. The straight track project was then delayed, not by lack of intent, but by land acquisition challenges, COVID lockdowns and significant flooding. Once land was secured and all expert advice reviewed, construction of the Wanganui straight track commenced. Following its completion, planning for a second straight track in the South Island, which has already been discussed. As part of this, I'm normally brought in to fix systems. That's why people employ me. I've been employed in many organisations for doing that. That's what you see with the Pet Refuge one and the Kids Care one are two examples of systems that I've actually worked on. So I would like to propose that a fair and workable middle ground might be worth considering. I found when I was dealing with the people in greyhounds, they were extremely helpful and extremely responsive to all of the changes, and some of those ones that I brought in were pretty tough. And I feel quite guilty about the mortgages that some of them have taken out to make sure that they were living and keeping up to the standard that we were demanding. Targeted evidence-based reform, including limiting racing to one turn and straight tracks. There is also a lot less injuries on the bend of straight tracks as well, as long as the boxes are far away. I never thought I'd be able to talk about stuff like this, I have to tell you. As well as where you place the starting box and all of those things can make a huge difference to injury. As a former athlete, I was able to understand that, and it actually made real sense. So I just think including limiting racing to one turn and straight tracks would continue reducing the injuries, protect the livelihoods and prevent the extinction of the breed. People don't seem to realise that in about 5 or 6 years, there will be no greyhounds to wander around as a pet, and I won't be able to have one in my old age. It would also preserve the welfare gains already achieved and the industry's substantial contribution to our economy. If the ban proceeds, regardless, fair compensation must be provided to those who invested in good faith. Just to ease my conscience a little bit, but for the bigger reason, believing there would be proper and impartial process. And the continued importation of overseas greyhound racing must end if that happens.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We have a question from Cameron Luxton.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Glenda, for your submission. The committee's heard some submitters say there is no way in which racing or exploiting animals will ever be acceptable to them. Do you feel that even if a compromise such as the one you were suggesting, if that was to happen, that would ever alleviate the concerns of the people who seemingly want to end greyhound racing?
No, as a former police officer, I'm extremely aware that there are people, and I admire them for them, and I accept their right to be there, that are tied into a specific, sometimes ideology or a specific view. So I don't think whatever the committee does with those people that you will change them, and I accept that that's their right.
Do you have a sup on that, Cameron? No. Okay. Tangi Utikiri.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Glenda. Given your background in this industry, one of the things that Greyhound Racing New Zealand have suggested is if this bill does proceed, that actually the role of the MAC is not best aligned to deal with transition, but Greyhound Racing New Zealand itself would be. Do you have any thoughts or views on the suitability of either, given the fact that you've been involved in a number of different sort of avenues and worn many hats?
Yeah. No, I certainly do. I have to admit that when I got into greyhounds and found out the whole complications of and the importance of how those dogs are looked after, the fact that they are very different, the fact that the business is different, it definitely needs to be run by people that actually understand how it works and how the dogs work. And I would definitely say that the current staff at Greyhound Racing New Zealand, although I must admit a conflict of interest here because I employed some of them, would be the right people to be actually doing that. And as for the rehoming program, which had started before I got there, the people that are running that rehoming program are just excellent, and it would be absolutely crazy for it to go to anybody else.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And thank you for taking the time to sit here all day and listen to everything.
Well, I'll just change back to the full screen mode. Glenda's bang smack on the money.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you definitely could tell when I mean, I've dealt with Glenda in different situations. I know some of the stuff that she's been public about, her fix-it stuff. I know some of the private stuff that she's been on there. And the interesting part is this will upset a lot of national people out there. The number of times she's gone out and backed for the Labour Party as a former National Party member. Yeah, it's some very interesting things in there. I also partly wonder if Winston Peters is doing this out of spite, because Winston Peters and Glenda Hughes don't like each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of different theories in regards to what's going on behind the scenes, because the way that he proposed the ban just didn't really make any sense to why he was.
It came across as like a knee-jerk reaction. I mean, its first reading was read under urgency, and I don't even think the bill sat on. Like, normally when a bill is presented, it has to sit there for a week before you can actually have its first reading. So that's when it gets introduced to the House. It sits at the front in that section there where the clerk, in front of where the clerk sits, and MPs can pick it off. I don't know if that bill itself, if it was, because it was. Its first reading was held under urgency, but I'm not sure if it was introduced under urgency, which bypasses the rules.
Yeah, I wouldn't honestly know in that regard. I'm not too up to the politics side of it.
And urgency is just what I'll put it this way. I can't stand it. As someone who wants transparency in our House of Representatives, I can't stand urgency. There are some places where it's appropriate, but it's been used too much.
Yeah.
It's a bit like what do you call it? Your boss tell you to stay extra late with no notice.
Oh yeah.
That's the best way to describe it. It's unplanned overtime.
It's even the way that he passed when he brought out the announcement. What was it? Whenever in December that he brought it, and then he passed the bill or the rule.
The first reading stage,
or just the rule where he put in that that was already an established rule within Greyhound Racing New Zealand, and all LPs abided by it, and no one unnecessarily euthanized a greyhound, but if they did, there would have been serious consequences. So the way urgently put that bill through made it seem as though greyhound racing participants were euthanizing greyhounds for the sake of it.
So the way you're describing it is like he's made an announcement of something that was already in law and making it out it wasn't?
Yes, yeah. So it was a rule within greyhound racing, but it wasn't a rule in Parliament. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Someone brought this bill basically to say that we were euthanizing all these greyhounds, but we weren't, and he rushed this bill through when it really wasn't necessary.
Yeah. Now, before we proceed for the next one, which is the CEO of was it Greyhound New Zealand, our lovely friend from the hut, we call him Lord Alex of Super Chats, has asked some questions. Now, I don't know whether you probably know much about what's happening with roading projects in Wellington, but Alex would like your opinion on your take on fast track with the Petone and Grenada Link Road and the Cross Valley Link project going for under fast track approval this year, and if successful, it means consultation with affected parties will be reduced and questionable. do you have 2 cents worth you'd like to add to that?
I honestly haven't to it. I don't. Honestly, my broad scale is kind of around my job, and I work 7 days a week. Honestly, I wouldn't have any too much into it. I would only see what's in the media about whatever.
And Alex, you know my opinion. I'm not the biggest fan of fast track. If there are places where it needs to be. It's not a replacement of a damaged road like the Manawatu Gorge. It's building a new piece of infrastructure.
Okay,
Yeah. So that's where I sit, And also, here's another one, and this one I actually think you probably will have much more of an opinion on it. Just wanting to ask Sam and Chloe, is it time for the private sales of fireworks to be banned despite the fireworks prohibition bill sitting in the biscuit tin in Parliament?
Look, personally, yes, my greyhounds don't have a problem with fireworks. But I have had many livestock before and horses, and that's where I find it difficult. So my dogs don't mind, but the horses do. They get freaked out. They can obviously quite badly injure themselves. I think that if they really wanted to have fireworks that displays, they should be holding them for the public once a year, and that should be it. But they should be available to buy, especially when I used to live in town, like more closer to town, and people would put them off, all year round. It's quite unpredictable to be able to then go.
We have that problem here in Newtown, the fact being next to the zoo.
Oh yeah, that would.
And like put it this way, I love lighting fireworks, but to be honest, it's inappropriate for me to be doing it in the current place I live.
Yes,
We've got I'm less than a kilometre away from Wellington Zoo.
Yes, definitely.
And I mean, okay, it hasn't happened in my lifetime, but apparently there has been a point where a tiger or a lion had escaped and the police had to chase it.
Yeah, no, that would not be an ideal situation you'd want to put anyone in. So
No. And I don't know. Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't know how to do it, considering there's Wellington Zoo is a part of Wellington City Council. So it's not like it's it's not like it's got its own animal control police force or anything that goes with it. It's a division of the city council.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm on board for it to be banned.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see from the CEO of was it Greyhound New Zealand? Greyhound Racing New Zealand. God, Vimeo is very not the best at doing transcribing stuff properly.
Okay, so last submitters of the day, Greyhound Racing New Zealand. We have you for 20 minutes.
I'll turn up.
So I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions, so please give us time for questions at the end. Thank you very much.
I'll try and be short. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Edward Rennell. I'm the Chief Executive of Greyhound Racing New Zealand. With me today, I have Sean Hannon, our Chairman, Dr. Gavin Goebel, our Animal Welfare Manager and Chief Veterinarian, and Sue Walls, our Head of Operations and IT. As background, I've been fortunate to merge my interest in racing with my career for the majority of my professional life. I've previously been the Chief Executive of Harness Racing New Zealand for 21 years, Chair of the TABNZ Dates Committee for 3, and General Manager Broadcasting and Operations for TABNZ for 2 years. Since September 22, it has been my privilege to be Chief Executive of Greyhound Racing New Zealand. I have fond memories of going to my first Greyhound meeting as a kid in 1980 at the old Kiwi 2 Park. Taking GRNZ's submission as read, I will not waste your time countering the misinformation, spurious allegations and selective interpretation of statistics that many of the proponents of the ban have outlined to you today. GRNZ's transparent reporting of statistics is subject to independent verification and monitored by the Minister's statutory regulator, the Racing Integrity Board. These statistics are independently verified and irrefutable. I've had a common question throughout the hearings, is why didn't we do more? The evolution of a progressive animal welfare program and the changes we have made over the last 5 years are significant, revolutionary, and frankly enormous. The industry employs and consults experts and leads the way in reforms. I can say with authority, given my extensive experience in the racing industry, that greyhound racing leads the way in New Zealand in terms of animal welfare. I'm tremendously proud of our unrelenting commitment to do the right thing by our canine athletes. This commitment has been demonstrated to you in the voices and testimonies presented throughout the hearing. Greyhound racing is the only racing code in New Zealand with full traceability of our animals. The only code where the animals are guaranteed a life post-racing, and one that has a rehabilitation to rehoming scheme to ensure injured animals are medically cared for and subsequently adopted into suitable homes. GRNZ does not celebrate purpose-built crematoriums as a wealth initiative. Our race day euthanasia rate is half that of the thoroughbred code in New Zealand. These hearings have been the first opportunity for our people to be heard by lawmakers, and I thank the members sincerely of this committee for the empathy that's been extended over the 2 days of hearing. It's certainly been appreciated.
Thank you.
The fact that the minister responsible for this legislation can arrive at such a decision, devastating people, dogs, and economic activity without any engagement with the industry, is an indictment on New Zealand's political processes. It has made me and many question our faith in our political systems. You, good people, have the ability to restore that faith. Over the last 2 days, members have heard the harrowing and confronting submissions from our people. I do not need to repeat these. I could never convey them as passionately or as eloquently as these genuine, hard-working New Zealanders that are impacted by this decision. The hurt, the utter devastation, the sense of unfairness, the anger, the mental anguish was clear for all to see. Family units ripped apart, lifetime investments obliterated, generational commitments and passions wiped out. You have to ask why. To win a few more votes, secure more funding for the protected equine codes? I don't know. Only one man can answer that, and he refuses to talk to me. The legislation before you reflects the shoddy way the Minister's office and the officials have approached this decision. The Ministerial Advisory Committee was appointed in December 24, and one of their key responsibilities stated in their terms of reference was to create a transitional plan for the closure of the industry. 14 months later, there is no plan and it is still work in progress. You and your parliamentary colleagues are being asked to pass a bill now and manage the consequences later. It's not good enough. Such a plan, while it will be complex with a myriad of issues to be considered, has to be done. The bill is due to take effect in a matter of months. Where is the plan? This is Mac's responsibility, not GRNZ. This ongoing certainty as to what is going to happen in the very near future is causing great distress amongst our participants and negatively affecting the health and well-being of our people. It is a ban without a plan. The process is absent due diligence, and I urge the committee to hold the Minister to account on this. He is asleep at the wheel. If closure is to happen, which we are opposed to, it must be done in a fair and principled manner. At our first meeting with the Ministerial Advisory Committee, Chair Heather Simpson made it very clear that there would be no compensation for industry participants and that we had 18 months to scale down activity. This without even having passed the bill. It is hard to escape the conclusion that the timing of the proposed closure was set more on the basis to occur just before the coming election, rather than what was logical in the best interest of the people and the dogs. As outlined in our written submission, our participants have incurred costs and invested heavily, in many cases their life savings in good faith. They have invested in breeding and racing greyhounds at considerable costs, only to have careers curtailed by hasty and premature closure. They have invested in greyhound equipment and upgraded facilities to meet our comprehensive welfare standards. Those costs are now sunk and cannot be realised. It is therefore heartening to hear members of this committee use the C word, compensation. Thank you for this. Our preliminary estimates are that at least $40 million commitment would be required. We would welcome the opportunity, however, to provide a more defined analysis once the government confirms its appetite for fairness and justice in looking at this. There is ample precedent in New Zealand law for such compensation. There are other key matters in our submission that require your consideration, chiefly the absorption and wind-up of legitimate incorporated societies and the illogical double standard with the import of overseas greyhound racing. The Green Party has already stated this is unacceptable, and I thank them and acknowledge this. Finally, Sir Bruce Robertson made a statement in his 2021 review that if closure was to be seriously contemplated, then a full-scale inquiry will be required to assess all the consequences. Why then has the industry not been extended this right? We would welcome such an inquiry. Surely before you wipe $159 million from the economy, cost 1,054 hardworking people their jobs, and destroy families and communities, you must be sure you are basing this on the right information, not prejudicial personal political agendas. One wonders, would Mr. Peters have been emboldened to make this decision if the SPCA hadn't offered him assurances they would not be calling for a ban on horse racing? Personal convictions by the Minister and his advisor John Johansson are not sufficient to write laws. I implore this committee, dedicated people who entered politics for the right reason, to ignore party lines and make a statement. This style of lawmaking is not okay. Please reject this bill and have the industry reviewed objectively and fairly. Thank you for your time, and we welcome your questions.
Now, before we get to hearing the select committee questions, imported greyhound racing, is that the TAB trackside broadcasting and accepting bets on Australian, for example, greyhound racing?
Yes, yeah. So you obviously can bet overseas on Australian greyhound racing. On 20%. You overseas on Australian greyhound racing, and TAB will give a percentage. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but to each code. So the horse codes, thoroughbreds, the harness percentage, and so does greyhound racing. So it's a percentage of income, to my knowledge. But the government also gets a percentage of that.
And it's 20%. I can tell you that percentage because
I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, gambling duty is 20%. So 20% of the bet goes in gambling, and I believe there is also GST on it, but I'm not 100% certain on that.
I think,
yeah, but I definitely know the gambling duty is 20%.
Yeah. I just know that it's a certain percent. Like the greyhound may be lower than the horses, but I'm not sure. Exact.
But yeah, because that's something that's like being said in there, and for people who don't follow gambling or follow greyhound racing or horse racing at all, imported could mean all sorts of things.
Yeah,
and that was just something in there, because you don't physically import the dogs into New Zealand, you import the race into the system.
Yeah, a lot of people, you can't anymore, obviously, with the ban, but greyhound racing imports from Australia was a large thing because they have such a large amount of dogs over there. A lot of them aren't competitive over there, so they may send them over here, like the owners will send them over for it. And then once they're retired here, they will go to a rehoming program. It's a bit different over there. To my knowledge, if you have a greyhound exported out of New Zealand to Australia, they cannot go through the Australian rehoming program. They either have to be rehomed privately or they have to be sent back to New Zealand to go through their rehoming system. So it's a bit different how they do the rehoming. But
it just sounds so complicated and confusing.
I know, it is.
Because, like, I mean, it's already bad enough, like, having to put a dog through quarantine to go for, I don't know exactly what our rules are for Australia. I do know with other countries it can be up to 90 days.
I think it's, I could be wrong.
And I mean, like, if it's in a quarantine situation, the dog ain't training.
No, yeah. I know it's not as strict dogs in and out of, like, America and that, but they do some sort of quarantine in that. I haven't imported a dog for donkey's years, so. Yeah.
And the only reason why I know about the 90-day rule is I've known people who have moved pets from both the UK and from the United States, and it's about 90 days that they sit in quarantine or isolation before they are able to be released into society.
Yeah, I think the American one's higher, I think, because of the rabies and that, where they don't have that sort of risk over Australia.
Their system's garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, put it this way. We had one of the best dog control systems for, was it Hydatus? I think it was, back in, this is what led to why we pay dog registration fees. Because we actually used to get a service for it. We don't now, but we used to. And that was the Hydatus trying to stop the spread of that going around. And we pretty much eliminated it by that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that, and I mean, the dog ranger got to know all the legitimate dogs in the community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what some questions that come from these MPs.
Thank you very much. Thanks indeed. So I have questions here from Miles, Cameron, Steve, and Tungi in that order. Miles, you're up first.
Thanks, Chair. Look, thanks for your submission, Edward. That was very fulsome. Could you expand on what you believe is supposed to happen under the current proposal to the racing club's assets?
Well, the way the legislation is drafted, the clubs would be wound up by GRNZ. Their funds absorbed by GRNZ, then GRNZ would go through a similar process and the funds would transfer to the transition authority appointed under the Act.
And has the Ministerial Advisory Committee engaged around this?
We had some preliminary discussions, Sean and myself, I think back in May, but we have had no more detail on that than what is provided in the draft legislation. We have had a couple of subsequent meetings in December, January around the preparation of the transition plan and trying to identify the work that would be required in the closure. And that's one aspect of it that would need to be considered.
Thank you.
We'll go to Tungi next. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Edward. I asked Glenda Hughes about the placement of either Greyhound Racing New Zealand or the MAC to, in the event that this bill does proceed, deal with the transitional sort of phases. Now, you've alluded to this specifically in your written submission in terms of Greyhound Racing New Zealand being best placed to lead at that particular phase. Just giving you an opportunity to perhaps elaborate a little bit more in that space.
Yeah, so we provided to the MAC committee an outline back in last April of how potentially rehoming could be conducted following the closure. And what we were advocating with that is that essentially most of Greyhound Racing structures could be maintained to manage that process along with our adoption, the adoption agencies. Last year with the support of the agencies, we had 697 dogs adopted. So that, it was a significant achievement. It's not broken, it's working well. And we believe that those existing structures should be continued to drive that adoption process. It wouldn't be Greyhound Racing New Zealand in its current form, but it would need a lesser version, but employing and utilising the resources and assets of the people that are there.
Okay, thanks. Cameron.
Oh, thank you. Tangi touched on part of my question, but do you think that Edward, do you think whatever plan, there has been sufficient openness about a potential plan, and based on your experience now with the Ministerial Advisory Group or the committee, do you think that they will be able to rehome all the dogs?
No. It will take, the rehoming process, when we looked at the papers on which the government made this decision, the assumptions were that the population would be rehomed by 31 July 26. I think the MAC committee, when they started to review it, we quickly identified that was very unlikely and almost impossible. And I think their report indicates that it will take 2 to 2.5 years post-closure to achieve that. In terms of, are they the best people to drive that? Well, they were appointed in December 24. As of today, we don't have a transition plan. They only advertised for a establishment lead in December of 25. So for 12 months, I don't believe there has been sufficient progress.
Thank you. And I'll leave it there, Chair. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Steve, do you have a new question?
Yeah, thank you. I do, Madam Chair, and thank you, Edward. Good to see you all here, and I appreciate you've been here for all of the hearings. In terms of understanding your core position, but where you usefully make key recommendations on how things should be done in your submission, if there is to be a closure, you suggest that it be extended, the closure date, from the 31st of July 26 to July 29. I wonder if it wasn't the full 3 years, but was 1 year or 2 years longer, whether that would still be beneficial. And my second part to that question is there a risk if it's 3 years that then the breeding of new greyhounds would begin again?
I think if there was to be a ban, but it was to be extended, there would need to be a ban on breeding so that we don't have more dogs coming in. However, the 3 years was to ensure that dogs that have been bred can have a full career. A dog generally starts racing at 18 months, and on average they race through to up to 4. So the extension would, and we would have had pups born in January 25 that probably will not race before the ban comes into effect, that were bred in good faith. The key advantage in having an extension is you actually still provide the benefits of trainers continuing to race their dogs. There will be income coming in for the trainers, and they can then look after their dogs that are in their kennels or waiting to go into the Great Mates scheme. So it provides the income for that to happen. If that doesn't happen, and you just have no racing and you have dogs sitting in kennels held by trainers waiting to go into Great Mates, they will need to be reimbursed for that on a per day basis because they've got no income coming in from racing to feed the dogs, pay staff and ensure the welfare of those animals.
I'll just sup on that, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'll just go first if that's okay. Oh, you go, Steve. Yeah.
It's a quick sup on the finances of it, because there has been a suggestion that if there is going to continue to be income coming from the Australian gambling, that should go to Greyhound Racing New Zealand to pay for that sort of thing. Wouldn't be that the other way to do it?
Yeah, well, effectively, that's the income from that under the current funding arrangements, under the Tri-Code funding agreement. The TAB makes a profit and makes an allocation to 3 codes, and they determine the split. Within, Greyhound Racing gets a share of that. Our market share is just around the 13 to 14%. I think our funding's just about 12.5%. So the funding from that enables our ability to pay for our welfare initiatives, but also maintain and pay stakes and the like.
But on its own, just to add to that, it's the income alone from Australian racing is insufficient to cover the cost to close the industry. So to rehome 2,500 odd greyhounds over the next 3 years, we estimate somewhere between $40 and $50 million. If we were going to fairly and reasonably compensate participants, then potentially there's another $40 to $50 million. That someone's got to pay for it, and there's nothing in the bill that indicates who's going to pay for it or how it's going to be paid for. The income we get from the imported racing from Australia is roughly 8 to 10 million a year. So there's a massive deficit that no one's quite comprehending quite yet. And even if we did continue racing, our market share would decline. As the volume of dogs declines, the volume of racing will decline, our income will decline, but we've still got dogs to feed, dogs to rehome, and participant compensation to consider.
Okay, I have a start going back to the previous line of questioning a little bit about the you talked about extending it, and that would make it better for all the trainers. And there were some people that raised the issue today about how the investment back into the track would wane as time went on, when we knew it was going to be a finite industry. So how would you ensure that didn't then increase? How would you give reassurance to those people that were concerned about it? How would you give them reassurance that it wasn't actually going to have a further detrimental impact on the safety of the dogs? Because of less investment, because of the finite industry.
Well, again, it depends on where the income comes from. So currently we spend 8 to 10 million a year on welfare initiatives, track safety initiatives, development. If our income is maintained at the current level, that investment can continue. But there will come a tipping point where if the income drops off, the money's got to come from somewhere else. So someone has to pay for it. And that's the choice. If the money's not there, you can't spend the money on either feeding the dogs or looking after the tracks or compensating the participants, all of which need to be done in a safe racing ecosystem.
Thank you very much. Miles, you've still got your hand up?
Yeah, I've got another question.
I can relate to some of those questions regarding the income aspect of the business. If the income doesn't exist, how do you actually pay for the costs of looking after the dogs?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people have staff. So I work for my in-law. Obviously, I'm counted as a staff member. My partner's counted as a staff member. And then we have my sister-in-law as well, and 2 other staff members on top of that. So looking at it from a business point of view, if my in-laws have no income, how are they going to pay the staff whom they need to look after the amount of dogs we have? Yeah. We have roughly about property. So how are they going to sufficiently look after those dogs in need? But then how are they going to also afford to pay for the dogs, because they won't be able to go out and get a job because they need to go look after these dogs. So funding and was a big issue.
And especially considering like you said earlier that you've got 3 dogs yourself?
I've got 3 house dogs at the minute. Yes, one foster, so that's 4 in the house. But there's quite a few dogs in the kennel. We have about 90 dogs in the kennels. There's quite a lot of them aren't race dogs, so we'd have quite a few older ones that would be, say between 8 to 13. So obviously we wouldn't be rehoming those sort of dogs, so they'll be kept with us for life. And then you've got ones that might be unable to be rehomed because spooky. So we have one spook, he's likely to stay with us, and that sort of thing. So you get the odd dog that can't be rehomed, and then the train.
So when you say spooky, is that someone that gets spooked very easily and basically?
Yeah, so have a tendency, so you get the odd, so it's nothing to do with, how they're raised or their racing life or anything. It sometimes comes in lines. It could be in the breeding line. But a lot of the time it's just how the dog is. You get people who are very outgoing, and then you get people who want to keep to themselves. So they're kind of like that. They're a dog that doesn't love to go out and be overly social. And maybe they're, a bit wary of new people at the beginning. So we do have one on the property, and he's likely to stay with us, but he's more than happy, once he gets warmed up to someone, to be their best friend.
But yes, you're right, and that's that's not going to be exactly easy to try and bring, to get a dog to warm up. I think us humans do the same thing at times, from time to time as well.
You don't find them very often because majority of dogs are very easy to rehome. I think it's like % are able to go into home straight away. But you do get the odd one. You can't have everything be perfect. So
yeah, exactly. And it's good that you actually look after them. You don't go, oh well, if you can't be rehomed, let's go for euthanasia. It is definitely, it's like, oh well, here's your home.
Absolutely. Yeah, there would be no, it wouldn't be time to euthanize. And even if, say, it did for whatever reason, you can't go and euthanize a greyhound just for the sake of it. You have to have medical, so a vet has to give you the advice for the welfare of the dog. So you can only euthanize on the case of advice. You can't just euthanize because you want to. And even then you have to apply to greyhound racing, and they have to sign it off before you can go ahead with the euthanasia. So it is a good jump through if you needed to euthanize a dog, unless it was an absolute emergency.
Okay, let's switch to a different one. How comfortable are you watching yourself?
Oh, I'll cringe, but you're welcome to go for it.
Okay, I'll be interested on it. Yeah, I know it's not always easy to watch yourself. Yeah, I've done my little bits of submissions over the years. Okay, that's the one I want.
Chloe Watson, who is on Zoom. Pretty good.
Oh, hiya.
Good morning, Chloe. Welcome to the Primary Production Select Committee. You've been allocated 10 minutes for your submission this morning. The committee would have read your written submission.
Yep.
Time is in your hands, so away you go.
Hi, I'm Chloe Watson. I'm a 21-year-old greyhound handler or kennel staff. I work for my in-laws currently. We have about a kennel of 80 dogs. Most dogs, quite a few retired or with the intention of to breed. But obviously with the ban, that's put a hold on a lot of our plans as a operation. Previously, I've worked in rehab and rehoming program. So that's the RTR program for Greyhound Racing New Zealand. So basically that program is ensures that any greyhounds on the track that may do a major injury, they are all sent to a facility. My aunt up north handles all the RTR dogs up there. So basically all their care is funded. Greyhound Racing New Zealand pays for all surgeries. And it just means that any greyhounds that might do a major injury really get the prime care they need. So to my knowledge, Greyhound Racing New Zealand is the only racing industry in New Zealand that has a rehab facility. To my knowledge, thoroughbreds and harness do not. I've also worked, currently I help foster for mayhounds, so I'm quite involved in the rehoming sector as well. And I've been in the industry since I was 8 years old. Previously, my family trained thoroughbreds, and my granddad has been involved in harness racing as well. So I've got a good, well-rounded idea of all three codes to an extent. When it comes to rehoming, Greyhound Racing New Zealand provide greyhounds that are up to date in vaccinations. They've got a full dental workup just done. Their desexing has been completed. And then they've obviously been up to date with flea and worms and everything else they need. So any dogs that might have any other medical conditions such as corns, pannus, all of that is attended to prior to rehoming. So these dogs are getting rehomed in the best fit health that they can possibly be. When it comes to how long it's going to take to rehome all these dogs past the ban, it's an easy 3 to 4 years looking at how many dogs we've rehomed every year, which is a big ask for people that might not have the income now to support all these dogs, to be asked to look after them to 3 to 4 years. And we've had no communication on whether we're going to get any income or we're going to have any support to look after our dogs. And a lot of trainers, well, 99% that I've talked to, I haven't spoken to all trainers, but every single one I've talked to do not want these dogs going to SPCA or any other rehoming organisation. We would like them to stay with Greyhound Racing New Zealand's program, because they're fit to look after these dogs. They know what they need and they understand how to transition a well-rounded race dog to a pet. A lot of the time I hear people say things such as that greyhounds are not well socialised and that they are so hard to adjust to homes, which is the complete opposite. I've had a foster in at the minute, and I've had fosters over the years, and they're probably the easiest dogs I've had transition. They're well-rounded routine dogs. They transition well into a home, with the exception of maybe a few dogs. But they're easily to kennel train, they're easy to toilet train. They are the easiest dogs I've ever had. When it comes to adult dogs, greyhound puppies are a little bit of an exception. But when we're looking at the ESC rules, which is the exercise, socialisation and enrichment program that Greyhound Racing New Zealand have, every greyhound has to meet a standard of socialisation, enrichment and exercise per day per year. So greyhounds are well socialised, they're well rounded, and they're really easy dogs to put into homes, with obviously the exception of a few. When it comes to statistics on deaths and injuries, you look at the three codes. So deaths are down 87.25% on the industry since 2021 for greyhounds. When we look at the thoroughbred stats versus the greyhound stats in 2023-2024 season, thoroughbreds had 26,000 roughly starters to 20 horse deaths. Greyhounds had 36,000 starters, so that's an extra 10,000 starters a year, and they only had 13 deaths. So, and in a percentage wise, greyhounds have a lot lower euthanization rate than horses do. Only 2.52% risk of injury or death within a race. So that means that there's 97.48% greyhounds that have zero chance of injury while racing. I've seen many greyhounds that have had no injury on track, and then they go into a home, and due to whatever reason, they could do a major injury. They could do a gracilis. I've seen dogs have an amputated leg off the track with no correlation to racing in a home. I've seen dogs do metatarsals, hocks, all sorts. So to say that greyhound racing is so dangerous because they do all these major injuries, well, they're quite easily able and susceptible to do them off track. And it's not to, say that obviously greyhound racing is amazing and safe, and it is in retrospect, but you look at also how Nastasia had said this morning about straight track racing. Yes, straight track racing is a lot safer. but we did not get the opportunity to see how safe it could be or to continue using it because we had an Ashburton track in plans, and we weren't able to execute those plans because of the ban. So we were never given the opportunity to, continue. So that's pretty much all I have. I want to just finish with a quick question. If this is our first time as an industry to have a voice, I don't quite understand why we haven't had one prior. Greyhound Racing New Zealand have suggested and asked for meetings with Winston Peters and other MPs and that previously, and we've either been turned down or just completely ignored. Do you have any idea as to why we've had no chance to either say our side or have a voice prior to the select committee hearings?
Look, I guess that's a question that you would have to put to Minister Peters.
It's a bit hard to get hold of him if we can't even get a response to if he can meet us or not.
I can't answer on his behalf. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you so much.
Now we have a question.
That was a brilliant submission.
Oh, thank you. I counted the amount of times I said and I wanted to slap myself.
Oh, fair enough. No, that is a very well succinct submission, and you should be really proud of yourself over that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, put it this way. As someone who doesn't know much about it, I learned something from that submission, and I'll probably say those at the select committee definitely would have learned something from it.
Perfect. That's good then.
Yeah. There's on this one here, helping you help animals trust.
Hoo-ha, yeah.
Hoo-ha. I didn't even see that one.
Their short name is Hoo-ha. Yeah, I have seen that one.
Yeah. Oh, let's give that one a go and see how great their submission is, considering they're how do I call it, an organisation.
Yes.
You there, Louis?
Gee, it's very funny watching these MPs try to do live streaming.
They had in the middle of they had a break and then they came back and they forgot to push live record. So
we're still waiting for a couple of people, but I think the first submitter is here. And
that sounds very awkward.
Yeah.
We've done that before. We did It's in the Ballot show last year, and we forgot to hit go live. Yeah, it was a little bit of a mistake. So I know exactly what that feels like.
Today.
Yeah.
Three? Members, 3 members in person.
Welcome to the Primary Production Select Committee.
Good morning.
It's a bit of a mix this morning of members in person and some by Zoom. So you've got 10 minutes. How you use that time's up to you. But if you want questions, I'd suggest you leave time for those.
Sure.
So it's in your hands, away you go.
Thanks so much for having me. And I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I feel I should have. But my name is Carolyn Press-McKenzie. I'm the CEO and founder of New Zealand's leading independent animal welfare organisation, Hoo-ha, which stands for Helping You Help Animals. Thank you for having us here today. So Hoo-ha fully supports the closure of the greyhound racing industry for the sake of the animals. We all understand what racing is. It's the systematic breeding, conditioning, and pushing of animals to their physical limits. When you apply that level of pressure to any living being, whether it be human or animal, breakdown is not accidental, it's inevitable. I've actually got a script here that I was going to read, but I'm also really aware that we'll be one of the agencies who possibly can do some of the rehoming when this comes into play. So if at any point anyone has any questions, just jump in, because I think what we have to say is quite important. We're grateful to you for giving these animals who love to run the opportunity to do so without pressure, with their new families and their new homes. For the next few minutes, I'd like to talk to you and take a constructive and solution-forward approach. Over and over, I hear people within the racing industry say that only people within the racing industry understand greyhounds and what they need, and only people within the industry should be allowed to rehome the greyhounds. But this really worries me, as it blocks support at a time where the greyhound industry actually needs that support the most. And Huha would like to offer that support. We would love it if everyone would put the habitual and negative narrative to bed. We know greyhounds, we love them, we've been rehoming them for decades. My first job was in the racing industry, working with standardbreds. So I've actually, although I've gone on a journey and now I run a rescue, I've actually lived and breathed racing, and I understand the deep-rooted passion and culture. And please know that my experience comes from first-hand place, boots on the ground, lived experience. We've been inside greyhound breeding facilities, and we've been inside greyhound training facilities. We've seen trainers who genuinely care, and we've also seen the consequences of trainers who do not. At times, Huha has held up to 15 greyhounds in our care at once. We know that they're quirky, we know that they're sensitive, we know that they require patience, routine and understanding to transition them successfully into home life. Every greyhound that has been surrendered to Huha has come to us for one of two reasons. Either there was no room at GAP or through the GAP program, or the dog has actually failed the behavioural testing and refused entry to GAP or the program. Despite that, of the close to 60 greyhounds who have found their way to Huha, and we would love to have had more, it's just that, you know, we're not often given the opportunity, but over the years we've had 60 or so come through, and not one of them has been euthanized. Every single dog has been given the time it's needed to adjust, and every one of them was successfully rehomed. I think the big thing is that at any stage, we have a contract that goes with every animal we adopt. And if at any stage a guardian's circumstance change and they can't care for those animals anymore, we won't let them give them away or on-sell them. The animals have to be brought back to Huha. That way we can protect these animals for their future and for their life. During one of the industry submissions, we heard one of the speakers talk about the specialist medical care that greyhounds require. And on that point, we agree, because in our experience, every greyhound that has come into our care has needed substantial medical support. We routinely see animals with periodontal disease needing extensive dental work, PANIS, which is an autoimmune eye disease, other conditions. We've had three greyhounds come into our care who have been blind. We see tail injuries, digit injuries, pressure sores from confinement. We see, well, most of them are entire dogs requiring desexing. Some of them have pyometra. We also see animals needing orthopedic work. And they all, of course, need significant time, patience, and rehabilitation. Huha has a fully operational veterinary clinic, and we estimate that each greyhound we see requires an average of $1,000 to $1,500 in medical care on arrival, and this is at cost price. But what concerns us deeply is, instead of working collaboratively with experienced rescue organisations, the industry has chosen a narrative of mistrust and control. We have experience of this type of control. We've seen it before, where dogs are held tightly, sometimes hidden, rather than being given opportunity. For example, we are increasingly approached by whistleblowers, and although that's perhaps not relevant anymore because everyone's chosen a path forward, one of the most disturbing patterns we have seen is injured or retired greyhounds being kept in crates, sheds, or garages, out of sight. They're not dead, so the statistics look better, but they have not been rehomed. They're just in hiding. So we're asking, what life is that for those greyhounds? Through the process to end greyhound racing, organisations like Huha, the SPCA, who actually deserve much more credit than they're being given for caring, Dogwatch and other organisations, we're all capable of helping to support and manage this transition. And I want to be clear, this is what we do. We all do this professionally. Huha has 20 staff, a vet team, obviously a proven track record. We have the capacity to work with the trainers and the agencies to relieve the burden and give these animals a future. We also have proven track record for setting up highly functional pop-up shelters capable of housing up to 1,000 animals. Every day we manage flow, we manage consequences of industry, and we know how to handle it. New Zealanders are extraordinary, and when these dogs become available, people will step forward. I've seen this time and time again in my 40 years in animal welfare. This does not need to be a us versus them. It can be a collaboration. It can be trust. It can be kinder than what's happening now. One thing
Just
I've
going to
learned.
interrupt you there for a minute,
That's
Caroline.
okay.
We're running out of time, and I've
Oh,
got
go me.
a number of questions lined up. So if I could start with you, Steve.
Let's just do the questions.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Good one, Carolyn. And thank you so much for your substantive submission and all your amazing work. Can I interpret from what you're saying that you don't have a problem with the existing rehoming groups from the industry side also doing that work? Or you think it should be exclusively Hoo-Ha, Safe Dog Watch and SPCA?
For me personally, it's all let's get in there and get amongst it.
Right.
I think it would be lovely if everyone understood. It'd be nice to set a sort of like a bar. I think the animals, we do need to do home visits. We have to really deep dive into who these homes are and if they have the experience and if they have the right environment for these animals. So for us, we probably do get a bit over the top with how we place an animal, and I'd like to see that rolled out, but we're all capable of it.
Yeah, so the Great Mates program's all good from your point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all work together.
Thank you.
Rachel.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Carolyn. Question I've got is, thanks just for the information on the number of dogs you've rehomed. How many of them have had to come back into your care if they've had to be, they've found that it hasn't been suitable for the house or for the family? Have you got an idea on that?
Yeah, I think maybe 2. Honestly, I'm racking my brain. There was a situation. Yeah, I know I definitely remember one scenario where the dog needed to come back. The home wasn't the home we thought it was. And then that dog got rehomed again to a great home. And then I think there was a health issue one as well. But yeah, no, they generally, if you do the job right, unless there's other circumstances, they stay. People love them.
Thanks very much, Caroline.
As someone who works in the industry, how would you take that submission?
I have a lot of words. No, when I was watching it live, a lot of things came to mind, especially the parts where it didn't make any sense. So she said a lot about that she's had 60 dogs in her care, and I'm not going to say she's lying. However, I've seen 3 dogs in total in their care over the last few years. And I'm pretty sure majority of them were returned from, so they had gone into a home. The home had obviously realized that all Greyhound rehoming organizations have a policy where you can return the dog if your circumstances change, and they surrendered them to Hoo-Ha. So Hoo-Ha did rehome them that way, but the dogs were already desexed in that. But the biggest part that doesn't make sense to me is that they're saying that, say they have had 60 dogs come into their care. They're saying that these dogs haven't been desexed, they haven't had dentals. They're saying that these dogs have severe pannus, which makes no sense because no greyhounds can be rehomed or given to someone without a greyhound training license if they're not desexed, or greyhounds do need to have a full dental workup, be vaccinated, have things like pannus taken care of. And if Greyhound Racing New Zealand's paying for that and the trainers are not, which is how rehoming works within Greyhound Racing New Zealand, the organisation pays for it, why wouldn't trainers be taking, advantage of that? Why wouldn't go rehoming a dog and just, if they can be desexation and fully deworm and fleed and any other issues taken care of, I'll get that taken care of if it's free, obviously. And I'll do it myself if I had to pay for it anyways, but it makes no sense because it's illegal to do that. So it's impossible for her to have these dogs entire, for one. But also the fact where she's saying dogs are kept in crates because they're injured or because they're retired. A lot of greyhounds that are retired actually go out into big paddocks to free up kennel space. So it's the complete opposite as to what she's saying. But also...
Yeah, I can picture...
Yeah.
A greyhound mixing and mingling with the sheep.
Yeah. But
You know, I can envision that. That a retired greyhound, yeah, it's like what you call it, you know, could be on a not sheep, you know, 100-acre sheep farm and literally mixing and mingling with sheep and all that sort of thing, and probably sits down there and does as much distance and running in retirement as would on the racetrack.
yeah, definitely. Like, and it just doesn't make sense because the ROB, you know, does kennel audits at least once, so many, you know, every year. So if greyhounds were kept in those conditions, they wouldn't, you know, they'd be caught, obviously.
Yeah, it's a bit like what do you call it? Like a warrant of fitness on the car. If you do the repairs they're required to pass, they don't immediately become a fail the moment the inspector leaves.
Yeah, and it would mean that you'd have to have those kennels that are up to standard to put the dogs into. So why would you then go and put them in a crate? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's basically saying, why would you go into a warrant fitness place with 8mm tyres and then sit there, go out and then replace them with bull ones?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I think that's a great way for those who don't understand. That everyone can relate to that one.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever done that in my life, but
I have had that happen, not quite in that context. The vehicle was in the process of being written off.
oh, okay, yeah.
So the tires were transferred to my brother's car, the good tread ones.
Yes, yeah, I get you.
Yeah, but they weren't quite 8mm tread. They were like 4.
Yeah, no,
He had a couple of 2s.
yeah.
You know, which okay, 2s are legal, but 2s don't last long. 2s aren't great if you're driving through surface water, whereas 4s are like 4mm treads better, and 8mm even better.
Oh yeah, exactly. You'd be wanting to steal those back.
Oh yeah. I mean, I do a lot of driving myself, and the difference in the tread and tires can absolutely change an experience with driving. It absolutely does change an experience, particularly like we've got this, Wellington with the hills, wet surfaces, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, let's get on to the next submission there, which is New Zealand's Companion Animal Blood Bank Limited.
Yeah.
God, that sounds complicated, confusing.
Yeah, it is. But it makes sense if you watch it.
Time, unfortunately, but thanks very much for taking the effort to submit and come down and submit in person. Now, the next submitter is Paul Mitchell from the Animal Companion Blood Bank, the New Zealand Companion Animal Blood Bank, and Suze will chair if that's the case.
Hi, Paul. Welcome to the Primary Production Select Committee. You can take your submission as read, and as you've probably seen from the previous ones, the more time for questions, the better. So far away. The floor's yours.
Well, 60 greyhounds over how many decades did you say? Was interesting. Good morning. I'm Paul Mitchell, owner and director of the New Zealand Companion Animal Blood Bank. As you can see, I'm a returned serviceman and veteran, as it has been in my family for 4 generations, father to son. I'm humbled to have been decorated for my service to my country and my community, and I'm a fierce proponent of liberty. I've no problem standing up or being counted or putting myself in harm's way to protect the freedoms of others, as my family has done for generations. To those people who support the bill, your right to freedom of speech, freedom of thought and movement is provided by our Bill of Rights and is protected by thousands of men and women who, like me and my family, believe in your right to liberty. Our Bill of Rights entitles you to the opportunity of a vocation of your own choosing. Many of the supporters of this bill live under the liberty and in the same breath use it as a weapon to take the liberty away from other New Zealanders. You have the impertinence to cajole and harass New Zealand citizens, believing you're somehow superior, and claim a moral high ground to belittle and bully your fellow New Zealanders. Supporters of this bill are attempting to persuade government what vocations other people should and should not be allowed to choose for themselves. You use the liberty provided to you to steal away the liberty from your countrymen. Today, I represent myself and New Zealand Companion Animal Blood Bank. I have a conflict of interest in that my business is related to the greyhound racing industry. We are reliant on the industry and work in symbiosis with it. If the greyhound racing industry goes, the breed will go and we will go. 26 years of the blood bank will close. It will be the end of us. Blood bank produces about $100,000 a year in revenue. Its profits are around the 35% mark. We've produced over 1,000 units of blood and 2,000 units of plasma in the last 6 years. A conservative estimate is about 1,000 transfusions given to canine patients that need it and whose lives have been extended by the existence of the greyhound racing industry. We exclusively use greyhounds, and there's good clinical reasons for that. I'm 49 years old. I've been out of paid employment and running my own business for the last 8 years. So I'm wondering what work I'll do. I'm wondering who will hire me. I've got 2 sons, 7 and 4. I can't afford to lose $30,000. I will absolutely lose my home, that's without question. That's in direct contradiction of what Mr. Peters' own party policy and principles suggest that he wants for New Zealanders. He's going to take me out of my home. People are conflating commercial greyhound and horse racing with injury causation. Of the animals owners in the room, which is probably 80%, have any of you had an animal experience an injury that wasn't incurred during a horse or dog race? Living things sustain injury. It's a gross simplification to say that racing is causative of injuries. Animals get injured and killed daily, well away from commercial racing. The government has the right to make laws and to do so unfettered. With the government making the decision in principle, industry has put its hope in the courage of our Governor-General, Dame Cindy Kiro. It is my hope that she challenges convention, does not give this bill royal assent, because it contravenes the intention of laws of New Zealand for its people, for liberty and sovereignty. This proposed bill forces the closure of specifically greyhound racing clubs. If you've ever been a member of a club, imagine the government coming and telling you that you need to close your club down. The bill proposes the closure of a legally trading incorporated society like the RSA, like SPCA. And if you let that through, it's just the thin end of the wedge. If government decides that they can do it better and says, well, we're just going to set up an animal welfare ministry, if it passes this legislation, then it has the power to pass legislation anyway to force the closure of a legally trading company that's as a registered organisation, seize its funds, appoint an agency that then chooses the right to how those funds are then distributed. And I don't think that that is the liberty that was intended for New Zealand by our Anzac troops, by our World War II troops, certainly not by my father, not by our Vietnam veterans, not by my service, not by the service of my son. I think when you start moving into people's liberties and choosing what they can and can't do for a job, I think you'd ask yourself why you sit where you sit. If you've got any questions for me, go for it.
Thank you very much for your submission, and also thank you very much for your service. It's very much appreciated. Are there any questions, members? Oh, Cam, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Paul. My question is, in your role involved in blood transfusions, donations, have you come across any statistics for, along the lines of in your submission, injuries that happen outside of racing to companion animals? Is there any database that shows the injuries that you could point the committee to?
The place for data collection, you would have to go to each individual private clinic and ask how many patients they see on an annual basis, and that's going to be variable to community, population size, number of clinics in the local.
So in other words, we've got in-depth statistics for greyhound racing, but we don't have it for companion animals in the population or animals used in any other industry.
Well, I used to own a clinic in Levin, and 80 to 90% of the work that came through the door was public work that is completely unrelated to the greyhound racing industry. So we bought 10% of some of the greyhound work that was in, because Levin, where we were based in Levin, Foxton and that sort of stuff, it was an easy go. But 90% of the work that comes through a vet clinic, that came through our vet clinic, was vaccinations, dog that had got caught on barbed wire, hit by a car, arbovirus, those types of, all of the other it's a bell curve. So the things that happen most often.
Okay, but just to be clear, there's no database. You have to go to every local clinic to be able to try and get that data. Is what you're saying? It'd be interesting to see if
the rate of injury outside of racing is exponentially and probably immeasurably higher than it is within the racing codes because it's so strictly regulated.
I've actually got a quick stuff on that because in relation to the blood, I understand that greyhound blood can be used in urgent situations for any other dog when they require.
You're exactly right.
Much like humans with O negative, which I've got, that can be given to anyone in an emergency situation.
Really important.
So is there an impact that this is going to have on the future health of dogs?
Absolutely. If you consider that we've given maybe 1,000 transfusions to dogs that need it, all of our dogs are what's called DEA 1.1 negative, which is as close to a universal donor as you get.
Yeah.
So our blood can go to any canine in this country. And we've done xenotransfusions as well, where there's been last ditch effort, where we've given canine blood from a greyhound to a cat, and apparently it runs faster. Look, if you can check it up, it belongs to Sean Johnson of North Shore Critical Care and Veterinary Emergency, and he's done xenotransfusion. Just on that, for example, Sean's invested close to $100,000 on an apheresis machine, which enables him to do what's called treat immune-mediated thrombocytopenia and hemolytic anemia. Now that's if you like, it's kind of like dialysis, but for dogs, and it's close to curative. If he cannot get blood and he cannot get plasma, and we are the only suppliers of blood and plasma in the country in that sort of volume, he can't offer that treatment anywhere. So his investment, as well as any animals that he might treat, cannot be treated. That includes all military dogs. It includes the police dogs that we provided blood for. We provide blood to Massey University, ARC, every emergency and after hours clinic in the country that buys blood. We are the only supplier. It comes from us, and all of our blood comes from the greyhound racing industry exclusively.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'm really sorry, but we've reached time, but thank you.
That was a very interesting submission.
Yeah. No, he did a really very good.
Just want to ask, have any of your dogs donated dog blood?
Not my ones that are here currently. They haven't. But previously we have had dogs donate blood. But a lot of my friends that work with rehoming, a lot of theirs donate blood, and a really good friend up north, she's constantly donating blood with her dogs as well. But a lot of trainers.
I'll be honest with you. This is something I never actually was expecting to hear.
Yeah, it's a big thing that no one really thinks about where the blood sort of comes from, but because greyhounds are pretty much a universal donor, big thing within the racing industry and within the greyhound industry themselves as well. Like a lot of people who greyhounds will get them signed up to donate blood. So if there's a cat or say a dog that their local vet calls them and will say this dog needs blood, can X dog come in and help us donate?
Yeah, it's so are all greyhounds effectively the same blood type?
Yeah. So they have a higher amount of oxygen in their blood, which makes it basically universal.
Yeah. I wonder if that same works with humans.
Yeah, they're very much built different.
Yeah, exactly. No, but the oxygen in the blood actually is a very vital thing. And more oxygen carrying through the blood, and I know in the case of humans, actually makes the person more alert, more awake, and less prone to, other sorts of things as well. So, God, we learn all sorts of random stuff on the Auto Paper podcast that we just, I'll be honest with you, didn't have you here tonight, covered the bill. I never would have learnt anything like this.
No, it's definitely it's definitely different. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, that random wackiness stuff you never would actually sit there and picture. Yeah. I think he's also brave. This is on the person who is wearing the medals. Brave to go with the medals. Most people, when they come to it, they don't wear the full medals. They wear the stripe things that sit there and do it because it's very heavy on the chest.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah, I used to do cadets, and some of our officers had received medals through either cadets, or if they were a serviceman in the military before retiring. And if you were a serviceman in the military before retiring, you were allowed to, in cadets, display the fact you hold those medals.
Oh, that's, yeah, fair enough.
And so, as you can see that you see the ribbons with the colours on top, they would have like a badge, kind of exactly the same, that would display the same ribbon. Ron Mark used to often wear those in Parliament when he was the Minister of Defence.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, he's a former army captain, so he used to not the medals, but he used to wear the other version in Parliament. Which to the average Joe blog would possibly mean nothing, but if you know a little bit about medals and all that sort of thing, if they wouldn't know what the medals were in general. I just know that they were a medal. It's quite intriguing, just like what some people do. Usually the days that I used to see the medals come out usually were Anzac Day, which makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll do one more submission. God, we've had a very educational night tonight. I mean, Jason, you've done you've done a little bit of going through the chat on there on that sort of thing, of catching on that. One of our moderators. The next submission is the Balanced Dog Limited.
Yeah, so she's like a massage lady. She does lots of therapy on dogs and that.
Oh, nice.
And thanks again for your service.
You're welcome.
Sorry, Steve.
The next submit is via Zoom.
Gee, it's taken a while for them to get to the next
I think
next submitter.
Yeah, I think she was late if I could remember correctly, but I think she was late.
Hi, Kathleen. Sorry. You can take your, I was just waiting for Miles, but I think he's having problems with his internet service. You can take your submission as read, and if you'd like to leave some time for questions, I'm sure the committee would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. My name is Kathleen Chrisley, and my business is the Balanced Dog based in Christchurch. And I'm going to share my perspective on the ban from several angles, because I am a pet professional. I am a Greyhound mom. I have volunteered for rehoming efforts, and I'm also a foster carer with a specific interest in special needs dogs. I support a ban on Greyhound racing on animal welfare grounds. And I know that you're being lobbied to return to the House to stop the ban, but I believe there is a preponderance of evidence about injuries and risks to the dogs from racing that you simply cannot ignore. Dogs are not statistics. They are sentient beings capable of a range of emotions and with the intelligence of a 2-year-old child. And so if you accept the 2.52% industry statistic about injury, I want you to envisage a test. We will take a small runabout car, say a Suzuki Swift. We'll remove all its airbags, seat belts, windows, and windscreens. And we will place a 2-year-old child of your choosing in the front passenger seat. We will then remote control drive it at racing speed, ensuring that car is bumped, jostled, made to roll and spin, and eventually hit a stationary object like a wall. And I would like you to consider that kind of high intensity injury, assuming the child survives, what also lifelong injuries they may have if they're once deemed rehabilitated. These are the risks that are faced by commercial racing, and it's a major reason why jurisdictions have banned racing before us, but also additional jurisdictions around the world have announced bans since the late 2024 announcement. But I also see greyhounds who live with injuries that are not represented in that industry statistic. These are the repetitive strain injuries, the tendinopathies, and the arthritis. And it is well accepted in the field of canine arthritis management that arthritis is a young dog's disease. Its foundations are laid early in life. So ligament tears and soft tissue strains incurred in high energy environments, which may appear to be healed, are destabilizing. And I could not appear before you today without giving voice to some of the other animal welfare cases I have seen. The dog surrendered by his trainer, a victim of mauling in circumstances unknown, his foreleg frozen in scar tissue. Clearly, veterinary care had never been rendered. And when his adoption surgeon operated on him, she described that his skin unfurled like a flag to reveal that he could actually still use his foreleg. But due to the lack of veterinary care, he has severe scar tissue that has no elasticity. These wounds we reopen on a regular basis, and his adoptive family care for him, including making special clothing for him so that he doesn't worry his wounds when they are sore. I will not speak the trainer's name, but you'll meet him later because he appears on your schedule for today. The adoptive family who adopted a greyhound that was classified as failure to thrive. Her pre-adoption health procedures had all been obeyed, but eventually the vet said she needed another deworming. And her worm load was so high that it was indicative of dogs kept in unclean environments in intense living situation, and not the green paddock photos you were shown last week. My own greyhound Socks, unwell from the day I adopted him and grossly underweight, regularly wouldn't eat, required painful vitamin B injections because his vitamin B levels were so low. And after medications and ultrasound and various other procedures, he was deemed to have inflammatory bowel disease. And I guarantee you, he did not develop this disease on the day he was surrendered for adoption. He is typical of a dog not represented in the R2R program. And I can provide you with a copy of my email to GAP on this subject because I wanted to talk with them about the implications of rehoming an unwell dog. And my first foster greyhound, Rosie.
Kathleen, do you mind if I interrupt? It's just that we're getting close to time, and I know that Steve Abel has a question for you. So are you happy to take a question, or did you want to carry on with what you wanted to say?
Well, I did time myself, so I don't believe we're quite at 10 minutes or even close to 10. What time? How many minutes do you reckon you have?
About 4 minutes left.
Okay, give me just a couple wrap up.
Okay.
My foster greyhound, Rosie, deaf from neglect. Her ear canals closed by ear infections and scar tissue. Now, I want a solid rehoming effort, and you've previously heard about what it takes to make a good match, but we do need to understand that making a good match needs more skills than we currently have, and we need to recognize the rehoming efforts of the people who have already spoken to you, because I listened to them last week. But the Department of Internal Affairs has confirmed for me that no rehoming plan exists, and I can share the letter with you dated the 28th of January. So I would like you to go back to the House and make sure that you compel more information about the rehoming plan, because there are foster homes like mine that are being underutilized. And finally, I just want to say that my inquiries to GRNZ and the Racing Integrity Board about the number of dogs in the Rehab to Rehome program and the extent and nature of their injuries have been met with stony silence. And these dogs are going to need special care. Including and any hands, including my own, that are experienced that this country can manage.
Thank you, Kathleen. And we have a question from Steve Abel.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kathleen, and thank you for your work also. There seems to be a theme that there's as much injury occurring in companion animals as there are in greyhound racing dogs. Do you have any sort of reflection on that suggestion?
Every dog can be subject to an accident, and those, so. And I've included the dictionary definitions of what an accident is in my submission. But I can tell you in my experience, and I'm entering my 17th year, the kind of injuries that I'm seeing as recently as Saturday are dogs that have had their legs shattered and surgically repaired. Now, yes, they're surgically repaired, and that's a lovely thing, but that leg is never the same. They're going to offload. And so those high intensity injuries, we don't see anywhere near that in the pet population.
Okay.
But just like children and people, anyone can have an injury. We just don't have an ACC for dogs that can track that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. We appreciate your time.
Are we at time, Suze?
Oh, well, if you've got another question, we've probably got another minute. But there
Oh, here we. Okay, I've got one other quick one. It's on the rehoming that's already happening. Most of it is being done by industry associated groups who are funded by industry. Do you have any issues with that being the pathway by which greyhounds will be rehomed once the legislation passes, alongside other groups like Hoo Ha and Safe and SPCA.
I hearken what the lady from Hoo Ha said. I think it's an all hands on deck situation.
Okay.
And I do recognize the skills that exist in those rehoming groups that are affiliated with the industry. But there is a bit of a code of silence when it comes to things like special needs fostering, because we know we have a lot of R2R dogs, but the offers of fostering are not being met with in the middle. And that's a shame for the benefit of the dogs.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kathleen.
I don't know what you want to say.
When I was listening to this live, the initial statement about putting a child in a vehicle took me a bit.
I know, and the part that annoyed me is that I like my Suzukis.
Yeah.
Like I've owned Suzuki Altos, and I currently own a Suzuki APV van, which is the engine-wise, it's got the same engine as the Swift. It's just a completely different type of body, and that was awkward hearing that as a Suzuki car owner.
And the comparison between them being a 2-year-old, greyhounds are very intelligent dogs. Obviously, they're not the most intelligent dog, but they definitely don't have the brain of a 2-year-old.
They're not like a Jack Russell who'll sit there and run out in front of a car.
No, they're very intelligent dogs. But I've worked within the rehab to rehoming program, so my aunt runs it up north, so I know a lot about it. I'm not going to say that she's lying, because she's obviously not. She's very passionate. I don't have any idea as to the cases that she's talking about. And that's fine. You get the odd case, obviously, that might be more severe. However, she's talking about these dogs needing constant care. A lot of them may be rehomed to a home, say they've had a hock injury, which is a major bone in the greyhound leg. They do a hock injury, they get it surgically repaired, they may have metalwork in it. Generally, the metal is taken out before they're rehomed to avoid any risk of infection or anything. You know, things can happen down the track. When it comes to, say, they have left metalwork in, they've already been rehomed, they've been in that home for, say, 5 years, Greyhound Racing will cover the cost for that metalwork to be taken out, and maybe they need hydrotherapy afterwards. They will cover the cost for that. So they're not going to go into a home and then need all this extra care, and then that costs are going to be dumped onto the owner. Greyhound Racing pays for it. But if there's no Greyhound Racing because we're shut down and all these dogs do go into homes and potentially there is a problem there, there's going to be no funding for the owner.
And going to the vet isn't cheap. Like Auntie Susie has a staffy. And this is the first male dog she ever actually got fixed, because she doesn't fix her male dogs as a rule. Omar had crystals in his urethra, and now the good news was Harvard University paid for the tests. But so Susie didn't have to pay that. But if Susie did have to pay that, it would have cost over $1,000.
Yeah, oh, easily. I take my
Yeah. So, but it's great that you've got that after support care. But if you close down the industry, that after support care is no longer financially stable.
Yeah, absolutely. And greyhounds are susceptible to dental disease. It's just within the breed. So my boy has gingivitis. He's always had it. And my girl has what's called cups. It's basically an autoimmune disease where she's allergic to the plaque in her mouth. So they both get yearly dentals. Sometimes they get 6 monthly dentals. So their dentals could run between $600 to $1,500 easily. Obviously, I'd cover the cost for that. And you get a lot of greyhounds that are fine, have good, perfect dental teeth. But then you get the flip side where they might have gingivitis or something going on. It's just within the breed. Got things like Chinese crystals that are very much like that. So, in that sort of instance as well, everything's expensive, and if you take that support away, exactly.
And sorry for those at home, I think a helicopter might be trying to land at Wellington Hospital. Yeah. Or something, yeah, because that sounds very close, and considering Newtown is not actually that close to the airport, so is that I think that might be a helicopter train land at the hospital. Yeah, which that happens.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we are nearly 10 o'clock, so we'll get to the segment of the submissions that are coming up for you to sit there and put in your submissions on over the next week. Or over the next couple of weeks. The planning bill and natural hazards bill closes on Friday, the 13th of February, one day before Valentine's Day. If you want to sit down there and put a submission on the arms bill and sit down there and possibly, like my father says, suggest the SIS should be the regulator of gun licenses, you got your submission on Monday, the 16th of February. The Crimes Amendment Bill, where Sonny from the dairy can sit down there and want to citizens arrest anyone he accuses of stealing, closes on Monday the 16th of February. If you don't sit there and like that, put in a submission to say maybe you should have to be trained to sit there and do a citizen's arrest. The Earthquake-Prone Building Amendment Bill closes Monday the 16th of February. The Infrastructure Funding and Financing Amendment Bill closes on Friday, the 20th of February. And the one that's big for us, the inquiry into the 2025 local body elections, it's in the ballot production, still has yet to start writing their submission, let alone doing it. We've got a lot of things on the cards. Closes on Friday, the 27th of February. So, how have you found tonight's show, Chloe? We've met for the first time, joined a political panel, political podcast discussion? How have you found about it?
Oh, very good, very good. I think it was a very good experience, very much.
I know, and it is. I wish Laura was here because Laura would have found some of the stuff completely fascinating herself as well. Yeah, I'm going to have to sit there and message her and go, it was a very interesting night.
Yeah, I'm sure some of them wasn't you expected.
No, the blood one was the one I just was not expecting at all, but it was just like, now I'm taking the word on face value, but oh my God, that's pretty damn scary.
Yes, yeah, very, very important for those in the community that need blood for their dogs and that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, Parliament is back sitting this Tuesday, so we should have a nice, lovely set of normal bills being passed through Parliament. While I've been looked on the draft order paper, I think Brooke Van Velden with her Employment Relations Amendment Bill, better known as the Fire at Will Bill, is currently sitting on top of the provisional order paper. Oh, there is a new first reading bill, the Armed Force Disciplinary Legislation Amendment Bill, is number 2 on the government's order paper, so that will be interesting. And we'll see if Camilla Bellich and Greg Fleming members bill gets itself onto the order paper using the Standing Order 288, which bypasses the biscuit tin. Greg Fleming has accepted an interview with us. We will work out on Nutting Out the Times, and we will have him on the show at some point, and we're trying to see if we can get Camilla also to join in on that, considering Camilla has been on the show before and knows how we do things. Yeah. So from us here at the It's in the Ballot team and the Order Paper Podcast team, we'll be back here next Sunday. I certainly won't be as tired as I was this week. I spent the lovely day at Island Bay Festival selling coffee. So, and I'd like to thank my local councillor, Laurie Fu, former Deputy Mayor of Wellington, for coming there and using her keep cup. Something she always does. Anyone knows Laurie, it's going to be in there. And yes, is it urgency week 2? I don't think so. They've got select committees coming up, so they won't be going into urgency if they've got plenty of select committees. But you never know with this government what they could do. But yeah, if it's under urgency, the select committees can't meet. So yes, we'll see everyone back here next Sunday at 8 p.m. for more from the Order Paper Podcast, and repeats running at 7 p.m. On Wednesday night. So yeah, have a good evening.
Thank you for watching the Order Paper, your express ticket to the New Zealand House of Representatives. Every episode, we unravel the complex world of legislation, debate, and democracy. From bills to select committees, we've got it all covered from our team of political commentators who will dissect and explain what's happened so you can remain up to date on what's happened in the Aotearoa, New Zealand Parliament. To support our channel, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/itsinthaballot. The Order Paper podcast is brought to you by It's in the Ballot